Hello, this is cjhoyle. Today is Friday, January 1st, 2021, and I'm standing here in front of Glendora Park in Toronto's North York district. Today I'm riding my 1992 Iowa Linear Recumbent Bike, which as you can see has an action camera mounted on the front of it. And in this video I'm going to be riding north from here and giving a narrated tour of Willowdale Avenue. Alright, so starting here from the far southern terminus of Willowdale Avenue, I'll begin my way heading in the north direction. If I were to go further south, of course the road dead ends and becomes that park. And at the far south end of that park there's a big concrete fence, which is the divider between that park and Highway 401. You may have been able to hear some of the traffic noise from the 401 when I started the video. So Willowdale is a mostly residential street here in North York, and we're just about to cross Shepherd Avenue. And there's a few businesses around here, namely over on the right we're going to be going past the Rona store. Rona is a Canadian chain of hardware stores similar to Lowe's or Home Depot. This particular one is a fairly small store. I think it must be a hardware store that goes back, many decades, and it was eventually, taken over by Rona. But out in other areas of Canada, Rona stores are, can be big box stores, just like a Home Depot or a Lowe's would be. So yeah, a few businesses around near Shepherd Avenue. Shepherd Avenue is a major east-west street through North York, and I guess it goes into Scarborough to the east as well. And actually that section there we just crossed of Shepherd Avenue actually has a subway line which runs underneath it, or it's sometimes called a stubway because it's very short subway line. We got a little bit of a hill to climb here. Generally when you're traveling around Toronto, if you're heading in the north direction, that means you're moving away from Lake Ontario and the land slopes down to the south, so heading north you're often down to hit a few hills that you need to climb, nothing too significant though. Toronto is a relatively flat city. And this one's a little bit unusual because actually after you get to the top of it, it's actually, the hill goes back down again, so we've got a nice downhill up ahead to look forward to. Well, a relatively small downhill, I suppose. So the reason that I decided to make a video showing Willowdale Avenue here out in the inner suburbs is because earlier this year, or actually last year, keep forgetting that it's now 2021, back in the summer of 2020, there were bike lanes added to a portion of Willowdale Avenue, and that portion is coming up very soon. You can probably see it by now, just past this traffic light. So I've made a number of videos in the last few months which have covered new bike infrastructure that was added in 2020, and a lot of it was added due to the COVID-19 response by the City of Toronto, program called Active TO. But these bike lanes were built separate from that. They're actually part of the original, or the 2016 Toronto Cycling Network Plan, which basically had a sort of a network of, bike infrastructure around the city that all theoretically would connect together, and this was just part of sort of the grand master plan for that. And the city's been gradually rolling that out, and it's good to see this project getting built. So you'll notice that these bike lanes, they're protected by concrete barriers. And, you know, at first glance, actually, so not all of them are. I mean, right here you can see there's no concrete, but on the other side there are some. I'm not exactly sure what the pattern is, why some parts have it, why some parts don't. But yeah, anyways, at first glance it was sort of like, do we really need concrete, you know, on these bike lanes here? Because this is a street where, you know, the cars don't move incredibly fast. It's just a, you know, quiet, well, it's not exactly a quiet neighborhood street. It is, you know, a sort of a minor arterial, I suppose. But the main reason why I think they're good to have, the concrete I mean, is because since there's so many houses around here, when people will have, you know, gatherings and things at their house, and their driveway gets filled up, of course people want to park on the road, and, you know, parking in a bike lane with a regular civilian vehicle is not legal, but it doesn't stop people from doing it all the time. And so if someone had a big, you know, a big party at their house or something, then, you know, a big section of this bike lane would be unavailable. So the bike lanes, the concrete I mean, serve to enforce the law of not parking in the bike lanes, and, you know, people in the situation having that party will just have to, the guests will just have to park, you know, on one of the side streets that are adjacent to it. So it's nice to see these bike lanes, and it looks like they must have, I haven't been up here since the snow that's come in the last couple of weeks, but I suspect they must have had to have plowed this bike lane because there's no snow and ice in it. So that's good to see that they're giving these winter maintenance. So the intersection that we're about to pass through up ahead probably won't make this traffic light. Yeah, you can see it just turned yellow. This intersection is Finch Avenue. So I mentioned Shepherd Avenue was a major east-west street. Finch Avenue is the next arterial that goes in the east-west direction, and both Shepherd and Finch have subway stations on the Yonge subway line. Yonge Street runs parallel to Willowdale. It's about a kilometer or so to the west of here, so to my left side. And Finch, the Finch station is the northern terminus of the Yonge subway line, so it doesn't go any further north than this. So these bike lanes, I'm sure they're effective in helping people get to that subway station if they're, you know, needing to go on the subway. It's also really a major transportation hub because that's the end of the line. It connects to lots of buses, including, you know, Toronto TTC, Toronto Transit Commission buses, as well as buses that belong to the other transit company for the municipality that's north of Toronto. Within York Region, I guess the York Regional Transit. And there's also Go Transit, which is the sort of Ontario, Government of Ontario, that's what Go stands for. It's sort of the regional transit for the surrounding areas of Toronto. So you can get on a bus there that would take you, you know, to much further away destinations. So this intersection up ahead is called Bishop Avenue. And this is where the bike lanes terminate, and the reason for that is because at this intersection here, maybe I'll just take the camera over to the side so I can show you, just beyond this intersection, there's a recreational trail called the Finch Trail, or the Finch Recreational Trail, also sometimes known as the Finch Hydro Corridor Trail, and that's because of all these big power lines that follow it. So those bike lanes essentially are a great link for all the people that live in that neighborhood south of here, for them to be able to get out on this trail, because the Finch Trail runs continuously for quite a long distance across the top of North York. If you were to go west from here and get on that trail and head to the west, you'd be able to ride all the way to York University, and even beyond there, it pretty much eventually terminates at Highway 400. Which is, you know, quite a far away from here. And if you're going in the east direction, it makes it almost as far as Highway 404, which is the northern extension of the Don Valley Parkway. So those major barriers do, stop the trail from going further. There is actually a Finch trail in Scarborough. It picks up again and starts again over in northern Scarborough. But at this time, those two trails are disjointed. There's probably a 5 to 10 kilometer stretch where there's nothing to be able to connect them. But hopefully one day we'll see that connection. So yeah, here north of Bishop Avenue, Willowdale Avenue does not have bike lanes on it. It just, sort of turns back into a neighborhood street. It actually has 2 lanes of traffic in either direction, where the part south of here only had 1 lane of traffic in either way. Prior to the bike lanes, it was the same. It was still just 1 lane of traffic in either direction, but those lanes were just exceptionally wide. So it was sort of a no-brainer for adding bike lanes, and it's glad that they got them. I'm glad to see them. So this intersection we're about to cross here is called Comer Avenue. And my plan here is to ride Willowdale Avenue all the way from end to end. I was contemplating just showing the part with the bike lanes, but I think it's good I like to make these videos so they sort of, I can close the book on Willowdale Avenue, at least for now, and hopefully revisit it in the future. I think the cycling network plan does call for bike lanes that are extending further north from there. Someday, I don't know exactly what the future plan for that is. Part of the reason why the section that has the bike lanes now got them already is because that road was being redeveloped already. They already had to tear it apart and, replace the concrete and the pavement. And part of the Toronto's 10-year cycling network plan considered those replacements, and it basically said, okay, we're going to add some bike lanes here and there, but all those roads that you're redeveloping and repaving and all that, while you're doing that, while you have the road all torn up apart, and you got to paint new lines on it anyways, why don't we paint those lines in a way that makes the road so that it's more inviting and usable for other modes of transportation other than cars and trucks and motor vehicles. It's actually quite a nice day to be out cycling. It's, I guess it's not really sunny, but it's bright at least. Just kind of overcast. And the temperature's hovering right around the 0 degrees Celsius, maybe a little bit above, like maybe 2 degrees Celsius today. And there's not very much wind, so as long as you're dressed for it, it's quite a nice day to be out here. The reason that I'm actually up here today and that I decided to film the video is because I was meeting somebody from Kijiji, which is our local listing service for, buying and selling stuff locally here. And they live up, I guess they live up in this area, and they wanted to meet just outside of Finch Station. So I, was faced with the option of taking the subway up, which would have been fast and easy, but I thought, well, it's a nice day, I might as well ride my bike, and I'm glad I did. It's almost an hour actually to ride from where I live down in the Annex up to Finch Station, but it was an hour well spent, and I'll enjoy the ride heading back the other way. I'll be able to do it faster because, of course, I'll be riding downhill. Alright, so the intersection up ahead is Steeles Avenue, which is the northern terminus of the city of Toronto. It's another east-west street like Shepherd and Finch, but this one is the northern boundary of the city of Toronto. So once I get past there, I'll no longer be in the city of Toronto anymore. I will instead be in York Region within the lower tier municipality of Markham. So as you may be able to see from those blue signs behind me, Willowdale actually does continue north of Steeles, but it changes from Willowdale Avenue to Willowdale Boulevard. But anyways, that's where I'm going to end my narrated tour for today. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.